Welcome, everybody. You are in for a treat for the next hour and a half. This session is called How to Not Call the Police Ever, and I'm so excited and thrilled to be able to serve as the moderator for this exciting session. So welcome to our presenters. Welcome to those of you who are fortunate enough to sit in on this session. I just want to briefly introduce myself and the conference and then the presenters. And then without further ado, I want to make sure that we get straight to the presentation. My name is Sandra Joy. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a member of the event organizing team and the moderator for this session. I want to make you aware that closed captioning is available. To view a live transcription, click the live transcript button on the bottom menu and select show subtitle. Also, in order to secure the space, you cannot rename yourself once you have entered. We're sorry if you were unable to add your pronouns to your name already, but we urge you to do so before you log into the next session. In dreaming of this event, our team was inspired by words adapted from Project NIA. Abolitionist futures are not compatible with white supremacy, settler colonialism, misogyny, heterosexism, transphobia, ableism, and classism. Yet these systems of oppression are all around us and affect even this event space. The hope our team has for this session is that organizers, presenters, and participants, particularly those of us who carry a lot of privilege, are mindful of the differential impacts of power and have the courage to hold to account anyone here who exercises power in ways that enact harm. If one of our organizers removes you from the session, our intention is not to punish, nor to exclude you, but to practice care for the abolitionist community we are building. I want to encourage all in attendance to post reflections about the conference and I'll put this in the chat when I finish, hashtag Imagining Abolition 2021. Next, I'd like to introduce the presenters and then we'll get started. And I also want to thank our ASL interpreters that we have in this session for being here. That's wonderful. So let me introduce each of our presenters. We have Lisa Gray Garcia, known as Tiny. And Tiny is a formerly unhoused, incarcerated poverty scholar, revolutionary journalist, lecturer, poet, visionary, teacher, and single mama of Tiburcio, daughter of a houseless, disabled Mama D, and the co-founder of Poor Magazine, Prensa Pobre, Poor News Network. With her Mama D, she co-founded Escuela de la Gente, People's School, a poor indigenous people-led school, as well as several cultural projects such as the Poets Project, co-founded with Leroy Moore. Welfare Queens, the Theater of the Poor, Teatro de los Pobres, and Hotel Voices in 2011. She co-launched the Homefulness Project, a landless people self-determined land liberation movement in the Ohon Lisan Huchian, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, Huchuyan territory known as Deep East Oakland, and co-founded a liberation school for children, the Colonized Academy. She's also the author of Criminal Poverty, Growing Up Homeless in America, co-editor of A Decolonizer's Guide to Humble Revolution, born and raised in Frisco, and her second book, Poverty Scholarship, Poor People's Theory, Arts, Words, and Tears Across Mama Earth, was released in 2019. Next, we have Leroy Moore Jr., and he is an African-American writer, poet, community activist, and feminist. Moore was born November 2nd, 1967 in New York City. Moore is one of the founders of Crip Hop. Moore and his counterparts, Rob DeNoise Temple and Keith Jones, started Crip Hop, a movement that uses hip hop music as a means of expression for people with disabilities. The primary goal of the Crip Hop Nation is to increase awareness of music and media outlets of the talents, history, and rights of people with disabilities. The Crip Hop Nation also focuses on advocacy, activism, and education, and holds workshops on relevant social, artistic, and political issues. In addition to his work with Crip Hop, since the 1990s, Moore has written the column Illin' and Chillin' for Poor Magazine. Moore is also a co-founder of the disability performance art collective Scenes Invalid. Nationally, he currently serves as the chair of the Black Disability Studies Committee for the National Black Disability Coalition. He co-authored a children's book called Black Disabled Art History 101. Welcome, Mr. Moore. Dee Allen is an African-American performance poet, based in Oakland, California, active on the creative writing and spoken word tips since the early 1990s. And the collection of badass poetry released on Poor Press in 2019 called Skeletal Black, Poems from Beneath the Poverty Line, details the story of poverty, arson, displacement, and removal us poor people face all the time through all the evil means the exploitative, inhumane system called capitalism unfolds. Dee is also the author of 3 books, Boneyard, Unwritten Law, and Stormwater, all from Poor Press, and 16 anthology appearances, including Poets, 11, 2014, Feather Floating on the Water, Rise, Your Golden Sun Still Shines, The City is Already Speaking, What is Love, and the newest from Vagabond Books, Extreme, under his figurative belt so far. Welcome. Mutiaro Silencio, Indigenous Corepecha Raza artist, writer, media producer, teacher, and poet from Michoacan. Please forgive me for mispronouncing some of the words here. Mexico, teacher of the Poetas Pobres, Poets Project at Prensa Pobre, or magazine, and migrant, indigenous, and revolutionary artist and scholar in residence at the Race, Poverty, Media, and Justice Institute, and staff writer for Voices de Inmigrantes and Resistencia, and community activist. Actor and writer with People of Color Action Theater, POCAT, quote, "We did not cross the border crossed us," end quote. Raised in the east side of Oakland by his single mother, born in Michigan, made in Oakland, in a beautifully community of Black and brown folks, land of the homicides and sideshows. Quote, "My pen is my gun, my words are my bullets," end quote. Done work with Color Inc., Theater of the Oppressed, Oakland Unified School District, Unity Concepts, La Carpa del Feo. Last and certainly not least, we have Auntie Frances Moore with us. Auntie Frances Moore is a beloved Black disabled activist, elder, Black Panther, and community leader from North Oakland, South Berkeley. She grew up in North Berkeley and has dedicated most of her time and care to her community. Auntie Frances used music for healing purposes while going through transition at a young age. She was honored to work alongside with courageous geniuses of the revolutions as a member of the Black Panthers. She continues on with the legacy of the Black Panther Party, using food as an organizing tool to fight against gentrification and displacement. In her work, she has touched the lives of many community members, housed and houseless, through her self-help hunger program. She has helped transform Driver Plaza from a tiny patch of grass and cement to a fruiting edible garden and community hub. She is vital to the life of the neighborhood and is a memory keeper and storyteller who preserves our history even as the city faces so many rapid changes. I want to thank you all for bearing with me. I wanted to make sure I read each of your bios because the history that you bring with all of the rich work that you've done in your community needs to be shared here in this recording so those who see this recording can know all that you're involved in. I will, for those who are more visual and would like to read this over again, I'll include the link in the chat box as you present because I would love for people to read further about your bios. So thank you for your patience. My apologies for butchering some of the language, and I'm very excited at this point to turn it over to our presenters, and I believe they will have some words for you how they wish to proceed with regard to interaction and specifically Q&A, hopefully near the end of the program. So without further ado, I'm very excited to turn it over to our workshop presenters, and thank you once again.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to what we call How to Not Engage with the PoLice Ever, presented by Po Magazine, Homefulness Family of formerly houseless, disabled, and indigenous poverty scholars. Today's workshop will be presented in a combination of prayer, prose, theater, and conversation. But to start us off in a good way, we will begin with prayer for ancestors.
Calling in Sister Poor Magazine family, poet, warrior, liberator, Tracy Bell Borden, Sekhmet.
Here, but okay. Hello, blessings. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Blessings, peace and blessings to everyone that's here. Thank you for including me in this ceremony. Anytime that we get together and we talk about how to liberate ourselves and talk about the liberation that's already been in going on, and we honor those that are part of our liberation and those that did not get the chance to be in this fight. So one of the things that I want to do first in prayer is that I'm going to light a candle. I always light a candle. And so in this candle, I'm just lighting this candle to ask for, that we bring the light, that we are enlightenment, that we are going to be enlightened, and that we bring some wisdom. And also we want the good spirits around us to actually, guide us to the light. And so with that, I'm gonna like that. And I just want to, just in the prayer, I just want to give thanks and praise to all of those that have come before us. And knowing, for me, and I know in our community, that we are on the backs of those that came before us. We really definitely want to talk, like acknowledge the backs that are keeping us up. And so we definitely want to do that with acknowledging some of these people who did not get the chance to speak up and who are not able to have prayer with us right now. And also it's not only just to uplift them, but it's also to acknowledge the families that have lost their children, have lost their loved ones, their brothers, their sisters, their uncles, their aunts, their fathers, their mothers. And, a lot of that, we have to realize that our mental health in our community is jeopardized by the fact that we have people who are losing their lives by the hands of authority with no impunity. So definitely want to uplift the names of some people who, even though these names is only a few names, and as long as I've been working with CORE, we've had way too many people that we've had to stand up for. So these are only a few names that I'm gonna hold libation. And what I'm gonna do is I have a plant here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to plant water inside of this plant. And so part of our libation, this is a traditional thing that is done not only in Africa, not only on Turtle Island, but in many, many different indigenous lands around the world. And so what we do is we give libation and we put water into a plant or something that's living into the earth. And we just ask the ancestors to come be with us. And so with this, I'm gonna ask that we do libation for Breonna Taylor, Ashe, George Floyd, Ashe,
Motion by,
Stephen Taylor,
motion by,
Ashe, Kayla Moore,
motion by,
Luis Demetrio.
one more Pat.
Oh, no, okay, so this one's there. Okay, so gonna go out, Pat is the next one, yes, Ashe.
Motion by,
And so we have, okay, so we have Yvonne McDonald,
motion by,
Ashe. So we have Angelo Quinto,
motion by,
Ashe, Duante Wright,
motion by,
Ashe, Isaiah Cervantes, Ashe.
motion by,
And then if there's any other people that, I just have to, for my sister's son, Kenneth Harding Jr., I have to,
motion by,
Lopez is another one that I have to like give, some homage. And Mario Woods.
motion by,
Is anyone else that we want to bring out?
Stephon Clark of Sacramento.
Shay. And for any of anyone else that is on our hearts that we have not spoken of, we want to definitely, I want everyone to know that we're bringing these ancestors up, these people who have lost their lives. They are going to bring each other up. And so that's the beautiful thing. And so we have Regis, Paquet, I see that, Ashe.
DMX.
Ashe. Yes, the system with him as well. And I want to say, Alan Bruford, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Cecily Tyson.
Yes, this is
Moji Bayu.
we have Jamar Clark, I see there right there, Jamar Clark.
Moji Bayu.
And then, so we said, what's the Mark Clark? I see, okay, so, okay, so then the other person that, that I always think about, and this is who is very heavy, two people I think about are really heavy on my heart, is one is Rodney King, because he was killed by the system.
Moji Bayu.
And then also Khalid Browder from Rikers Island.
Moji Bayu. Stan Lee, the creator of Spider-Man.
Okay.
Oh, he's been dead for a year.
Mhm. And so we're gonna close this with, the last part of this is to just ask that our ancestors be pleased with what we are doing and to give us the help that we need. Adam Toledo, I see that, Ashe. We're gonna ask that we give, that we are blessed in doing what it is that we are doing. Okay, and thank you, because Khalid changed my life. So with that, I'm gonna do 3 Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. And may the ancestors, for anyone that keeps on putting the names in, may the ancestors keep on bringing them in and honoring them. They will definitely work with each other. So I give thanks and praise to anyone and everyone that allowed me to be a part of this.
Thank you, Tracy. We love you.
Love you much. I'll be right here.
Ashe, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mama Tracy. And again, welcome everybody. Again, just a little bit about what Poor Magazine is. Poor Magazine is a poor people-led, houseless, indigenous people-led movement trying to unself Mama Earth and resist the colonial terror model that are destroying us. We do this through fighting, building every day. We're teaching, speaking from a landless people, self-determined movement that we call homefulness. We are also those folks that some of your friends call the police. We are also those folks that get profiled on the streets.
Today's presenters / workshop leaders, poverty, indigenous scholars, poets, teachers, and cultural workers, and co-builders of Homefulness and Po Magazine. And we will start with our slam bios, introductions through poetry.
Muteado silencio, presente y me alegro. Mis palabras son mis balas, mi lápiz es mi arma. Muteado silencio, my words are my bullets, my pen is my gun. So sit back and relax, because we're gonna drop by your minds. Yeah, I'm loud, don't call the cops. Yeah, I'm loud, don't call the cops.
I'm the Black crippled. Going back to my Black disabled ancestors that freed me, that's how it come in. You know, the blind blues artists, you know, the freak show artists, we are here and we will always be here, Black, disabled, and beautiful.
Francis?
Auntie. No nonprofit organizer could speak for the Pope. No college professor could speak for the Pope. I can speak for the Pope because I'm on the Pope. Got my head, I'm on the broke on this block. You see me because I own less than you. You'll diss me, these slums, mine. Frustration, mine. This thirst, mine. Starvation, mine. These wants, mine. These tears, mine. Displacement, fears, mine. They're with me all the time. The president is mine, and neither is his government. They straight represent the class hate I resent. I don't count the institutions of power. I don't count to a racist coward. Picture me now, once worshiping they flag, as long as they continue to deny and slag. No news reporter can speak for the Pope. No social worker can speak for the Pope. I can speak for the Pope because I'm still another Pope. Got my head on the broke on this block. You see me, D. Allen, DP Soper, California.
Who am I? Who am I?
Go
I
ahead,
am-
Francis.
Who am I? I am that Black woman that I am, who's celebrating my deliverance, liberation, and freedom from the broken chains of lies and deceit. I am that Black woman who no longer has to hide my face with that awful mask of shame and ignorance, but now I unveil it, reveal it, magnify it. I'm talking about the true beauty and strength that was always there. I am that Black woman that I am, who no longer has to hide my face with that awful mask of shame and ignorance. But now I hold it up high. I am that Black woman that I am, who is reunited with my children of the universe. I'm talking about the beginning of creation. And now I nurse them once again from my bosom that flows the milk of life. For you see, I am that Black woman that I am.
Israel.
Hi everybody. This is Israel. I'm the most new member for magazine, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm grateful for every single person, and this no calling the police.
JD. Introduce. JV, are you there? That houseless mama and daughter sleeping in a tent. See that houseless mama and daughter sleeping in a tent? That's because we don't got money for the rent. Yeah, I'm a poverty scholar. That houseless mama, that houseless daughter, all those people you don't want to see, never want to be, look away from me. What you gonna do, arrest me? We're in your city. Yeah, I'm a poverty scholar. I rock my jailhouse attire, not because orange is the new black. Any crack Hollywood will sell you, don't believe that. It's because I did jail time, oh mama, for the poverty crime of unhoused. In this occupied indigenous holler, yeah, I'm a poverty scholar, the melanin challenged daughter of a strong Afro-born equal mama, for without whom there would be no me, a mama soltera and a welfare queen. JV, are you there? Just introduce yourself if you're there. If not, that's cool. We're gonna keep going. Anthropology, ethnography, psychology. Anthropology, ethnography, psychology. The study about us, without us. Our spirits, our cultures, our traditions, through your lens, deconstructing our struggles while our communities are dismantled, PoLice terrorized, and left in rubble. Acquired with academic privilege, linguistic domination gifts, long ago sorted and separated and parsed out behind the myth of inclusion and the cult of independence. Today's workshop will be presented as part of our People School curriculum. But what we live as poor people is our theory. Our theory is our life. And one of the values that we practice as poor folks trying to unsell Mama Earth and walk into liberation is what we live at homefulness, which is to never engage with the PoLice who test, arrest, incarcerate, and lead to our death. Homefulness, a poor and indigenous people's land liberation movement of housing, education, and healing, was and is grounding us today. And so we're gonna just get all of you guys who are conscious and woke and standing with us to understand and understand that we can talk about abolition every day and twice on Sundays. What does that actually look like, feel like, taste like? We're living it, and it's not easy. It's not easy because as poor and colonized people, we hurt each other all the time. So today, again, as poverty scholars, we teach through prayer, pose, poetry, poesia, theater, and love. And so we first of all just want to send love out to all y'all for sitting with us in this desperately needed moment when we absolutely cannot engage with these occupying armies in this occupied land anymore. And so we're gonna then have some conversations about what the problem is, which a lot of you folks already know. And then we're gonna talk about actual solutions that we're actually doing, living into and struggling with every day over here.
We are the impacted, police terrorized, harassed. We are Stephen Taylor, Israel Kareem. We are Colleen Moore and Luis Chicondo and Pat. And our lives are under attack every day.
Also, disclaimer, this is not a magic bullet. It won't necessarily apply to everyone. And really is grounded in the values we say is interdependence, rather than the cult of independence that this stolen land was built on. We are peoples coming from severe trauma of houselessness, disability, eviction, incarceration. And so we live and walk this talk as both survival and desperation. So our babies aren't killed. So we won't kill each other. And as folks coming from trauma, again, we hurt each other all the time. But we know what an emergency we're all in. But again, going back to interdependence, that is that I am not only my brother's keeper, but that we together have to hold each other through the struggles that we have every day in this occupied land. As well, that in many of these spaces and places, people can be conscious and believe in this idea as a theory. But what about when you're triggered? What about when your personal safety is questioned? What about when you are being put in a position that you have been told you should never be in? Because we've all been lied to about the PoLice state and being safe. Guess what? There is no safe in the PoLice state.
First, we will unpack what we mean by poverty scholarship. The following is an excerpt from our own book of theory called Poverty Scholarship. Po People Led Theory, Art, Words, and Tears Across Mama Earth, published by Po Press.
The notion of poverty scholarship was born in the calles, in the prisons, in the street corners, community centers, welfare offices, shelters, kitchen tables, assembly lines, tenements, favelas, projects, and ghettos. All the places people don't look for educators, experts, leaders, researchers, lecturers, linguistics, artists, creative thinkers, and media producers.
Poverty scholars are told our knowledge is not valid or legitimate. Our speech is improper. Our work and our choice is criminal. Our words inept.
Poverty scholars like us are silenced, incarcerated, criminalized, displaced, gentrified, houseless, disabled, marginalized, sorted, separated, and extinguished.
In our languages, writing, thinking, our arte demean invalid through the process we call linguistic domination, crafted by formal institutions of learning like this one.
Poverty scholar schools are everywhere. Poverty scholar schools are everywhere. Our teachings are essential, haphazard, and immediate, fluid, and static. We are your mama, your cousin, your abuelita, your abuelito, your tío, your tía, your elders, your corner store owner, and your recycler.
Our research is based on our lives and our experiences and our solutions, our vast knowledge of what works and what can work. Our vision are based on the dreams of our ancestors, our elders, and our youth.
So we're gonna go again into a little bit of the his story and the her story of this genocide called PoLice terror. Leroy?
Now, everybody knows that the history of PoLice started with slavery. And, the so-called thinking of the good slave, being happy on the plantation. And if you ran away, you're a bad slave, then you are going to go mentally ill. And they called the slave masters after you. The slave masters were the early police. And also, beyond slavery, people in institutions like institutions of the church, with charity and stuff like that, the ugly laws that came out of England and that charged houseless people and people with disabilities to never be outside. That is a part of PoLice and the terror against our bodies, against disabled and poor bodies. That's when disabled and poor people were linked together from the state to exclude them. And of course, it goes up to today with a lot of laws on the books, anti-poverty laws on the books, saying that you can't sit anywhere, you can't sleep anywhere, to gentrification, sleeping disabled and Black and brown poor people outside of their own neighborhoods. And of course, we have the many police shootings that are happening today. But there's nothing new. It's been happening since we got off those slave boats.
And holding all that evil. We're trying to get JV, who's going to come up next, but I want to say that the next way that this kicks down in the 21st century is, in fact, the security industrial complex, and the ways that many of us poor people and people of color are in that job and in that industry as a survival industry. It's a job that is easy to get and easy to get in, and then emulates and simulates the PoLice. And in fact, it all comes out of these stop and frisk and the roots of the sundowner towns and the sit-lie and the ugly laws that Leroy touched on. These acts of settler colonial violence did not happen or did not start with the violence of PoLice terror and the murders of so many of our brothers and uncles and fathers and daughters and sisters and brothers. But rather, it started with the ways in which the public by design is not for the public. And actually, that everything in AmeriClan is raced and classed, and everywhere that we're supposedly allowed to be is raced and classed. And so what does that mean? Well, that means that in the gentry tech nation that we have in the Bay Area, as I call it, we have robot police now making sure that houseless people can't sit, stand, lie, or be. We have an ongoing war on youth of color and Black and brown peoples who are just trying to convene in these newly gentrified towns. And similarly, we have institutions, these AKK-demic institutions acting as the new gentrifiers. For people who are more interested in this stuff that we're doing, one of the things that we say is, how can there be liberation from PoLice terror when there's no liberation of Mama Earth? That they are all connected. We're going to be bringing up a couple videos to illustrate this, or actually probably one right now. For those of you who don't know about a lot of the work that we do at Poor Magazine, we refuse to continue the perpetuation of corporate and so-called progressive media that makes media about us without us. So we do, as poor and houseless people and disabled and indigenous, Black and brown and migrante peoples, we make a point of making sure that our voices are told by us, for us and for everybody else. And this is just one of many on the violence called sweeps. Again, equating our bodies with trash, the hygienic metaphors.
Dion Rowland.
All right, and what's happening here today, or what is supposed to happen?
Well, we're waiting for Caltrans to come to not pick up garbage and to try and make sure that our stuff doesn't get claimed in the process.
Exactly. When they come, what happens?
We have to move our stuff around the corner to the alley, and then they take it upon themselves to pick up whatever trash they feel like they need to pick up, and then they take tents, belongings, personal items, whatever. Right
Exactly. And a lot of people think they steal our shit, really.
Yeah,
You know
definitely.
what
It's definitely been said that there's two different trucks, one that things that are of value get placed in, and ones that garbage gets placed in, or sometimes they'll just throw it all together. We're supposed to be able to claim our stuff 90 days after Caltrans comes. I know of people who have gone and had their stuff not been there, and I know of people who have watched their stuff get put in trash compactors.
Exactly. And just because we outside, it doesn't mean we don't have belongings that matter.
Yeah, and I mean, considering that like most of the stuff that we get is other people's trash anyway, it's like some stuff is not easy to find. You know, things aren't easy to find, and like not everybody gets like government assistance or anything like that. So it's just like you have to literally like scavenge and forage for everything that you have. Instead, like you can't just get it the next month.
That's real. Well, any last message to listeners or viewers that you need support down here?
I would say that getting to know us is a great way to disparage the stigma, and not every homeless person that you know is a degenerate, as most people would easily think. Some people are out here just because of a change of bad luck.
That's real. Well, just because we don't have access to a roof, it doesn't mean we're not people.
Yeah, exactly. We're not any less human.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you.
The preceding videos you just saw is from one of Po Magazine's many radical Po people-led media projects called Ruthless Radio. That's ROOFLESS Radio, which you can find on our YouTube channel, Po News Network. The second one was from residents in the shelter-in-place motels in San Francisco that have been told they have to leave by the current mayoral administration, the London Breed regime, after being told that they could be there 18 months. This is sadly typical of the kind of endless harassment that Po and houseless people have to deal with while supposedly receiving services from what Tiny affectionately calls anti-social workers and case managers.
Caitlin, let's show a couple minutes of that. Oh, Caitlin, do you not have it because you got rid of it? My bad.
There's an issue there.
Go ahead. You can start there. You can start, no, you can start in the middle actually, where you had it.
I mean, that right there alone, that's a serious issue there. You know what I'm saying? Some of these elderly people older than me, a lot of folks don't have nowhere to go though, and they don't have people to speak up for them. So I'm here talking actions for those who can't actually talk for themselves. I do actually have a speech impediment, but I know how to get my words out.
No,
You
you're
can see that.
beautiful.
So
You're
hey,
beautiful.
and
I wanted to just go back a step.
So again, that on the pandemic, all of these politics mayors did everything they could to not follow the CDC guidelines and to make sure that our houseless bodies, whether we were disabled or elder or not, were left on the street. And as we always say, how are we going to shelter in place when we don't got a place? So this is a message as we lift up why we're doing this workshop and why we even do it. I'll read a little bit of this. Stop calling. Stop stalling. Stop talking while more Black and brown daughters and sons are falling. No, I mean stop enabling and colonizing a system that kills more than it ever cures our ills, with roots in the original theft of Turtle Island, meant to confuse our already confused mindsets. Got us all believing that numbers like 911 means house people are safe from us houseless, that whites and lights are safe in their own embedded desire for wealth-hoarding whiteness, that continuing to buy and evict, foreclose, sweep, and kick makes anyone safe from myths about how to be safe and what is the way to handle fear and danger every day in a place already stolen, a land already rife with murderous lies that keep told and sold like poison, that was set up to shoot and kill every Black, brown, and poor person in their way, was locked in to support fear so more protected classes could steal and more of us could end up in their jail cells, making them more bloodstained dollar bills.
Today's workshop is not a utopic idea. It's what we do, it's what we talk, and what we walk. No matter how hard it gets with our magazines, no PoLice or courts ever mandate. Po has been living and operating with this mandate for 25 years. It is a very hard thing to maintain, but it's rooted in the understanding that the PoLice are not there to help us, and that PoLice calls lead to so often people's deaths.
Again, and this is really hard because we hurt each other all the time. We have a series of documents, we have a series of circles, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes about how this actually looks and what we actually do. But even with all of that, it's a constant struggle to hold our colonized bodies to accountability, which is really at the end of the day what it is, which of course in the nonprofit industrial complex has been turned into a business. Restoration and restorative justice is sometimes really just a grant dance pimp, but we stand alongside our fellow landless peoples movement in Brazil, Zapatistas in Chiapas, Move Africa, Long Live John Africa, in terms of the ways in which we have to take care of ourselves, like our brothers and sisters from MH First, Mental Health First, and Anti-Police Terror Project, we keep us safe. But again, we gotta be careful with the hashtags, because these thoughts and these concepts sound good and are beautiful, but they are extremely hard to manifest when we've all been lied to about the concept of safe. So we're going to look at a little bit of this terrorizing video, which will just remind us of the PoLice terror that runs through these streets like blood. Caitlin, if you can bring that up.
Good morning, dude. Hey, man. You look like you're having fun. Everything okay?
I'm getting my exercise. I live across the street. Is it a problem?
Okay. Someone said that you were dancing in the street and they were concerned for your safety.
I'm dancing in the street.
It looked like you were dancing. I was watching you for a little bit. It's like jazzercise type of thing.
Exercise.
Is there any particular reason you're not doing it on the sidewalk?
Because people walk on the sidewalk and I jog sometimes, I move, or practicing my art while I'm standing behind me like this.
That's just how we stand.
That's fine.
Okay, you can stand right there. That's fine.
So it can't be out there like that. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
wherever's comfortable with you.
Excuse me. Comfortable is me continuing to put this.
All right, I just had a couple more questions, man, and then we'll be on our way. Just want to make sure where you're at. Do you feel like hurting yourself today?
Have a good day. Have a good day.
We just
Have a good
require.
day, gentlemen.
No.
Have a good day.
Listen,
gentlemen.
at this point you're detained, understand?
Sir.
Don't reach for anything.
My keys.
Great.
My car.
May I?
The green house. No. For what?
Listen, I'm trying to be cool.
What?
You're dancing in the street.
So
Technically.
what? I'm dancing in the street.
Yes. Hold on, woman. You're not free to go.
What
You're not free to go. You're not
What are
free
you
to
touching?
go. Stand over here.
Get your hands off of me.
Stand over here.
Officer, talk to the lady.
I'm sorry?
Talk to the lady.
I understand.
Leave me alone. Take your hands off of me.
You don't get to
No.
check. Right
No,
now
no,
you're
no,
in the
no.
street, so technically.
Sir, I was on the side. Excuse me. Let my hands go.
Miss, we understand.
Let me go.
Sir,
Let me go. No. No.
do you have ID on you?
Me go. Why are you touching me?
Right
Why
now.
are you touching me?
Stop asking questions. I have two
Listen.
questions to
No.
ask you.
No. I was walking down the street.
Put him over
getting
in
my
the street. If you resist, you will be put under arrest.
Stop resisting now. Gentlemen, what are you doing? Officer.
Stop resisting now.
Ma'am, could you let these people know that I'm... Please record. Please record. I do this every morning. Excuse me.
Okay, I
I do this.
understand.
Let me go.
Stop.
Stop
resisting
now. Get your hands off of me.
Stop.
I do... Listen, I have the...
31, we'll take a code 3 unit.
What is your name, ma'am? Excuse me, sir. Sir.
Stop resisting.
Sir, I am not...
He's requesting code 3.
Listen,
Listen,
we're not trying to fight you.
Listen.
We are now more training for police commissions, independent overboards, everything and resources go to the police, not to the community. We need to flip the point of view to what the community needs, like more community forums on mental health, etc. So also like Mario Woods saying, his mother was trying to get services, mental health services, and could not get mental health services, and that led to his death. So what I say in Poor Magazine said is that we've been down this road since the 80s. So we've done everything from police training to braces to police registers to anything except what the community needs. And what the community needs is to really, cut the police budget and bring that bring that money back to the community so we can, have our own control of our neighborhoods. Same thing as the Black Panthers did back in the day. So Tiny?
Right, and I just want to go back to Molly, and that was his name, and he's actually Poor Magazine family, lives in Clanamita. Shout out to Weston Navarez, who's one of our family as well, who also lives in Clanamita. And I say that with no humor in my voice, actually. I just like to mess with the colonial vocabulary. And when we understand and overstand that people have been lied to for 528 years about the notion of what keeps them safe, we also understand that what people are told is that things that they don't understand is something they should fear. It is the same narrative that has people calling the PoLice on houseless people. It's the same reason that Luis Dimitro Gongara Pat is dead, crossing false borders to get to this place to work in the gentrifucker kitchens for wealth hoarders in San Francisco and make their food as a Mayan indigenous man who didn't even speak the other colonizers' language. But someone wanted to help him. Yes, they wanted to help him because we need to help the homeless people. So they called 311. And as most cities across Americland, it's now starting to shift because of the pushback of many of us revolutionaries. But most cities in Americland still, shout out to Duante Wright, to George Floyd, to so many more, are calling 311, i.e. for mental health crises, and getting 911, which means guns and tasers, right? Which is another reason why Brother Quinto from Antioch, why Isaias Cervantes and so many more continue to die behind this lie of safe, and why Molly Watkins walking in Clanamita, dancing while Black in Americland, has someone called the PoLice on him, and why Luis Dimitro Gongara Pat was supposedly being helped. I do want to also say, as a houseless scholar, we don't need your help. We don't need your charity crumb. We need you to listen to our solutions. And as my brother Leroy pointed out, that if we were listening and connecting those dots, we would understand and overstand that we actually have solutions. The other pieces, other things that we ask people to do who have race and class and formal education privilege, which is also part of the solution, is to radically redistribute your resources. We wouldn't be sitting in this soon to be a house for houseless families right here at Homefulness had it not been for the radical redistributors and community reparators of Poor Magazine Solidarity family, which is similar to the Comité Apoyo of the Zapatistas, who work together to organize their own communities so that they can radically redistribute what they don't need to keep themselves safe to people who have nothing. I want to bring up Desiree Quintero, Ivaye, Shannon Marie Bigley, Ivaye, Stephen Taylor, Ivaye, and so many more, Leanne Blair, who were literally killed by PoLice calls because people were afraid of their houseless bodies, were killed by the violence of sweeps because people wanted to help them, AKA not see them. People who are outside are struggling with what I call the violence of exposure. And I always kick it back for those of you who have what I call the privilege of privacy. Think about if someone took the roof off of your apartment room, dorm, or space. Would they call you messy, dirty, disorganized? Would someone think they needed to help you fix your problem without ever asking if you wanted that help? So we're going to be continuing this conversation.
We will be showing 2 Theater of the Poe installments of actual reenactments. We will talk through the backstory and histories of each one after showing both of them. While you are watching them, please hold your questions or thoughts until we open it up for discussion.
And I want to say before we show those is that, you know, the answers that Poor Magazine and other groups have does not come from the Ford Foundation grant. You gotta make that clear. We gotta be critical of these big movements that get all these funding and don't do nothing. But the people in your community has the answers. So we need to lift those people up, and, you know, people like Poor Magazine and, you know, Anti-Police Terror. Those are the people that are doing the work. So I just wanted to say that. This is my land. My land. I used to live right here. This is my food. I'm gonna pick my food, goddammit. You know, yeah, it's my land. My land. What?
Hey, what's up, Ted?
This is my land. I live here.
Yeah, just pick some of them, you know, let some for the other folks who live in the
This
community.
is my land. I live here. I live here. Gentrification bullshit. This is my
I
land.
know, man, but some of the kids actually worked on this garden in some of the community folks.
My family lived
Stop
here
picking
way
up this
before you did.
Stop
Way
picking up leaves
before
off
you
the
did.
bushes, dude.
Just need some for the other folks, you know?
It's my land. I stay here. I used to
This
live
is
here.
no more your land than it is my land. Everybody shares this land in common.
Who are you, Uncle Tom? My,
Careful, guys, careful, because he got really violent last time, you know?
Are you guys sure I should call the cops?
Hey, just
Keep them out of this. We'll handle this.
Okay.
what? Who are you, man? This is my land.
Let me get you a bag though. Let me get you a bag. Okay? I'll get you a bag. Just a few
I can come back tomorrow?
Yeah, of course, of course.
In the next day?
Of course. It's your
In
land.
next year?
It's your land, and we need to report to you on how it's going too, so, you know,
Just
we
leave
need your
some for the- you
scholarship
can't
here.
rip all
Just
the
leave a
garbage,
little
man.
bit of
Don't
it for us,
destroy
that's
it.
all.
This
Just a
garden
A
little.
little,
belongs
just a
here.
little. All right, yeah.
All right,
Just a
don't
little.
destroy the garden, man.
thank you.
I'll be back tomorrow.
Okay,
Same time.
that's right,
My land.
that's right.
Because we believe that people who are in poverty and in struggle need to be paid for their time, you know, because any time that's taken out for activism or creativity or communication, any time that's taken out from the struggle is possibly, you know, one less loaf of bread we get, you know, maybe a shortfall in our rent. So we believe people should be paid. The money that we pay them with is from our subscribers. We do that because living in a capitalist system, we are still living in a capitalist system, and money is real and charged with a lot of bullshit. And we work really hard to decide and operate the circle in all the things we do, and all of us, you know, all of us agree that whether we're writing or not, that people should get paid. There's huge insecurity around money and resources when we're in a capitalist society, as a lot of us know. Sometimes we lose track of our accounting. This day that's being acted out, one of our longtime members showed up under the influence of several substances. It was a highly explosive situation, so.
Well. Hey, Kanye! Kanye! What's up, man? Where my money at? Where my money at? I didn't get no, you ain't gonna try to fast talk to me, Where my money at?
They gave you the check last week. Remember?
Hell no.
Yes.
I didn't get no check.
Yeah.
Tommy,
yeah.
give me my money.
Yeah, I don't have it, bro. I don't have it. I don't have your goddamn money, bro.
Bitch, you gonna give me
I don't have no goddamn money. You know that.
What's going on, guys?
You got my money,
I
Tommy.
don't have nothing.
Come on. Come on, man. Come on.
Wait. Well, write me a check out now. No, I'm gonna need it now. No, I'm gonna need it now.
Call the cops. Call the cops.
No.
Wait. Hold on.
No.
He's out of control.
No.
Where is my
You
money?
need to call the cops.
No, I didn't get no. Don't. Hey,
You wanna fight me? You wanna fight me? You want some of this? You want some of this?
Back up.
Back up.
Tiny. Let me talk to Tiny.
You wanna fight
Bring me in, Tiny. Come here, Tiny.
Your fights with me.
No.
Hey, you know what? You're drunk. You obviously under the influence.
I
You should
know.
not be here when you're under the
Yeah.
influence. You know that, man. Come on now.
Sure.
Give me my money.
You know what?
Call the cops
Come
now.
back tomorrow when you're not under no shit, and then we'll figure it out. Come back tomorrow, and when you're not under no shit, and we'll make it happen.
Chill,
You know we have
chill,
rules of
just
respect.
chill.
One of our policies
You
is
gotta
for.
call the big girl now. If you gotta call the
police.
No, I'm not, but these
Come
goes
back.
back.
Come back when you
Come
come
back.
Wait. Tiny.
Come
back
back.
when you
Give me a couple dollars. Give me a couple dollars.
I got you.
Can you give me a couple dollars?
Come on.
And then
Come back tomorrow.
Go home.
Come back tomorrow.
Go home.
Okay.
Come back tomorrow.
You're not yourself.
Because
The private.
Where's my money, bitch, is just one example of not calling the PoLice ever. We were actually in the quote unquote workplace, and we were so surrounded by so-called conscious, woke revolutionaries who might work paid or unpaid in the non-profiteer industrial complex, and yet operate in the very systems that their mission statements and values fight against. It's really important for us to always, as revolutionaries and liberators, but more importantly, as poor people, informed by poverty scholarship, to bring up these hypocrisies that happen even in the so-called movement. Folks might be working on global South and local militarization, oppression, homelessness, tenants' right, racial justice, poverty in Palestine, but then they turn around and call the PoLice on poor Black and brown, houseless Indigenous peoples in struggle right here. There was another famous PoLice call example that this poverty scholar spoke about and then was forever blacklisted by doing so because a young African descendant revolutionary was called an angry Black woman as she attempted to make calls about childcare about her baby while volunteering in a progressive media organization. I say that to say, again, for all the powerful folks who are attending today, it's very important to understand that you can believe in these ideas and you can promote hashtags and you can even fight and protest. But when it comes back to your own body, your own life, and your own community, somehow it doesn't translate.
The private security industrial complex is another crucial aspect of the genocidal workplace story, leading to so many folks being profiled for shopping, working and walking while Black, brown, or houseless. Ratcheted up to the 21st century sci-fi dynamic, we see the installation of the robot cops. Can you believe it? Robot cops. Surveillance cameras employed by wealth-hoarding tech companies in San Francisco to accompany employees to their cars and troll the parking lots so the delicate gentry tech nation doesn't have to deal with unhoused people asking them for change. Or if any unhoused people do ask tech employees for change, they will be harassed by those same new robot cops. This and other colonial crimes of the tech industry is why us houseless, displaced, poor peoples created the Tech Reparations Fund or the Bank of Community Reparations. a fund to build or create Black, brown, working class in San Francisco or Oakland residents, equity who had suffered eviction, displacement, foreclosure, and other gentrification fuel removal in the past 5 to 10 years since tech colonized the entire San Francisco Bay Area. This completely relates to the scene you saw earlier was a reenactment of our experience at Homefulness, based on a neighborhood homeless man named Ted, an unhoused African man whose family used to own property on Black Arthur, comes to Homefulness land in deep East Wichin, or Oakland if you prefer. Angry from years of systemic racism and forced removal behind fake paper trails, slave contracts, and colonizer laws, coded under titles like blight and taxes, comes on to Homefulness land where his family used to own property years ago before they lost it to a single tax bill, and threatens violence, pulls up to the truly Po people-led all community garden that feeds the whole neighborhood that Homefulness built, including all the tomato plants, orange trees, basil and chamomile, and now steals hay that feeds our therapy goats in the back. When community asks him to stop, he says, "This is my land, this is my weed," and threatens violence and other acts against the houseless and formerly houseless folks of Homefulness.
Yeah, we just again that us again here on Homefulness, right now residing about 4 families with children, mamas, elders, that we move as a community. And so even when we encounter difficult situations, we always make sure that it's more than 2 of us or 3 or 4 of us. Again, we do believe that the more people you have, the better decision making it happens. The thought process and not, again, being safe, but also not, engaging with the PoLice and the police and calling them. And again, we also, appreciate the love, like folks from the Black Riders who came to Homefulness and taught some of our youth, some of ourselves, self-defense. Yeah, we do believe in self-defense. We do believe in being ready again for when situations arise. Unfortunately, it's the time that we live in. But at all times, when there's a conflict, when there's a problem, we confront it as a community, as a village, all of us, uncles, mamas, elders, and again, we keep us safe.
It is important that we act together as a community, as a whole group in diffusing any crisis that comes our way from off the streets.
Yeah, so us poor, disabled, impacted Black and brown and houseless folks do something different. And that something different is Homefulness in what we practice and what we teach for 20 something years at Poor Magazine.
So we also just want to say these prompts to help people think through. I don't know if we're going to have time for Q&A tonight, but we might have a little bit. And I really want folks to think through these ideas. How did those scenes make you feel? What would be different ways to respond, react, struggle in the face of this trauma? And as we do that, I also want to just let folks know that all of these things get very, very complex and also not complex all at the same time, meaning that we run a liberation school here called Decolonize Academy with houseless and formerly houseless youth. We actually run a Poor People's Radio. You can check us out, poormagazine.org/radio. We also, again, like we said in the theater piece, we do a community garden that actually belongs to the community. But again, these aren't some hippie utopic dreams. These are survival dreams that are manifested. And in that sense, we also understand and understand that we are in an intentionally blighted poor people of color neighborhood that all of us have been just displaced and gentrified out of. So even the idea of taking back this stolen land and building is in and of itself a solution, but it's also a challenge because we're not going to operate like the colonial forces that continue to kill us. And so again, how do we deal with that, right? And part of it, and I'd say one of the important pieces is that we're operating and honoring our ancestors. We're listening carefully to the teachings of our ancients and our elders. And we're actually creating that which is very old, but also very new. Francis?
All right, yes. Sorry about that. So here's our responses and solutions. Now we have several circles at POR magazine, and many of them relate to conduct at the workplace. As we are building homefulness and deal with the multiple construction crews, we have a liberation radio and have multiple members who broadcast here. We have an organization that provides food, masks, diapers, and supplies to over 700 families per week, as well as a Poor People's Media Training, a press, poorpress.net, and more. And lastly, most definitely, most leastly, we have a liberation school, educating students of color, many disabled, in poverty, coming from trauma and homelessness, and their families. We work with many folks in trauma, both in work and in living settings. And we build and hold and have created multiple accountability circles. This is also how we make decisions in circles with our elders, ancestors, and community. One of them is the Elephant Council, where all decisions are made about POR magazine and homefulness. And when someone breaks from the rules of respect that guide us, this is bring up, okay, I'm gonna bring up the rules. We're gonna bring up the rules.
I hope we have them there. Poor Caitlin. Sorry, folks, we navigate these digital streets and we ghetto scholars and trying our best.
And it's a little difficult when everybody's in different places and relying on tech, you know.
Exactly. There you go.
All right, so there we go. And folks agreed to follow the People's Agreement created over 2 years by all the people at POR magazine and residents at Homefulness. The People's Agreements on the big screen, we see it on the big screen there, are something they have done against a family member, themselves, or community. We convene a family elders council. Now this is rooted in the ways of our ancestors. Peoples are held to accountability to their actions, and these sometimes must be convened over a period of several weeks or months and include Indigenous elders. Always include the Indigenous elders, I might add.
Yeah, and what people are looking at is the different circles. And this, of course, is also in the book. I don't know, called the PoLice ever. It's complicated, of course, when we deal with community who aren't necessarily part of these circles, like our brother, uncle, father, Ted, like some of our folks who we deal with on a day-to-day basis in terms of support and standing with, but we are not mandated reporters. even though we take care of school, of children and elders. And that's a very, very big thing to say in a system that is held together by criminalization and punitive laws. For those of you who are not caregivers or teachers, you may not know what that means, but that means that if you work with children or disabled elders or elders at all, you have to be a mandated reporter, meaning if somebody expresses to you, or if you somehow witness abuse or you suspect abuse. Well, let me get it clear. That does not mean that we do nothing. What it means is that we don't operate with the state. Right? So what it also means is that we pull our families in closer. We pull our youth in closer. We pull our elders in closer. And again, we also know that hurt people, right? And even more intense, hurting people trying to help each other is a challenge even in and of itself. So again, these are not easy. The Family Elders Council, as Francis just talked about, is, and a lot of the elders speak in the How to Not Call PoLice book, so people can read that. I urge you to get a copy if you haven't already. That basically the Family Elders Council is called when people will not listen, will not follow, and will not adhere to the agreements that they agreed to do. And it happens a lot. It happens with our youth who have their own family council. So again, because we do not operate by calling in the fake SRO officers and many of the things that Leroy has written about that most of the time happens to disabled youth in public and charter schools. But what we do is we actually, again, convene these family elders councils with the youth and operate constantly in a healing modality. I want to say that these are not necessarily solutions for everybody. One of our things is our village is huge. You're only seeing a small slice of it. There are hundreds of people involved with the Poor Magazine family, the Homefulness, and the Decolonized family. And it's very hard to hold all these different, powerful warriors together as we try to liberate Mama Earth. But one of the key parts is that we're constantly working on healing, right? And I think it's one of the takeaways for folks. If your life has been capitalized, if you have been sold a bill of goods about the cult of independence, if you are miles or thousands of miles away from the community, the culture, and the elders who made you, love you, and care about you, I suggest you consider coming to the next degentrification, decolonization seminar of Poor Magazine at People School. Because one of the crucial parts is that this concept of not believing the state lie of safe is really also about changing your entire life and shifting from a colonial narrative of the cult of independence and the normalcy of separation, or what I call the separation nation, and moving back into our culturas, our communities, and our elders. And that's not simple, and that's not one note. And I'm not in any way disrespecting people who, for instance, can't be at their family house because it's dangerous, or have fled for all kinds of reasons that have to do also with colonial terror and violence. But what I'm saying is there is a mind shift that is never talked about in capitalism. And it is part of a healing journey that we help people through in People School. And this workshop today is really just the beginning of your decolonization as far as we're concerned with it. So we know that we're running out of time, and we wanted to show a couple more videos, but I think we'll stop here and see if anybody has any questions, because we're at like the last 7 minutes. So I don't know if people are really burning with desire to ask. You can also hit us up in multiple ways. I urge people to look at poorpress.net, where you can get some of the powerful liberation work of Leroy Moore, D. Allen, Odiado Silencio, Huinande Exshaba, myself, Auntie Frances Moore, Joey Villarreal, and many more of us as well, that you can listen to Poor People's Radio, poormagazine.org/radio, and then you can also get the book. We don't do this to make money.
Sliding scale.
It's sliding scale. If you can't afford it, you can order it for free. We also have the Poor People's Survival Guide through COVID-19 and the virus called poverty, as well as the Poverty Scholarship Textbook, which is medicine for everybody. We're also going to be going on tour this summer, sharing the medicine of homefulness and doing our Stolen Land Hoarded Resources tour. Our next one is actually going to be focused on AKKdemia Anthro-Wrongology Department at UC Berkeley and the theft of land for the Durham Industrial Complex. You're all welcome to join us if you're in the Bay Area. And if you're not, we're going to be doing a road trip all the way from so-called Washington to so-called New York. That's you know, a big span, but we'll be there.
So, Tiny, do you tell people how to donate?
Yeah, and if you're interested in helping us, Poor Magazine is in fact co. We need your dough. So, also, if you're a trust funder and you're interested in radical redistribution, please contact me. I can help you unhoard your wealth. And I'm not kidding, actually. I'm really serious. And be part of the Bank of Community Reparations. You can go online to poormagazine.org/REVREV_donor, or just go to the front page of poormagazine.org and you can see that, or Venmo, Poor Magazine, /magazine. But
We also happen to have a newspaper created by the students of Decolonize Academy. It is the Black Arthur neighborhood newspaper as well, called Decolonize. If you could show an image of that on the screen.
Yeah. And it's also on WordPress too, Decolonize, with the Z at the end.
Okay, what the questions?
So anyone has questions, opening it up? I know we don't have much time.
Tiny, it looks like we have one question in the chat.
I was just thinking, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'll read it. What about abusers who exploit social vulnerabilities to rape or physically assault, especially when using hegemonic privilege? If they show zero remorse, entering positions of social power, and are continuing to harm and present a threat, report to the police or no? How to handle unremorseful predators continuing violence, yet you can report and aren't doing so due to not agreeing with the police. This happens in repeat sexual violence, and abusers continue unreported, often with cis hetero men to cis hetero women and girls. How to operate when we realize years later, and now this person is continuing to hurt others, feel like an enabler.
Leroy, did you want to take a stab at that?
Oh no, you can take a stab at that.
Okay,
Who knows better about these things than a woman?
I'm not laughing at that question. That's extremely serious. So first of all, I just want to hold and hug the questioner if this is something you're dealing with. And oftentimes, tragically, this is the question that derails folks when they're trying to liberate their minds, bodies, souls, and lives from the PoLice. So the first thing I want to say is, which I think most people on here know, but literally the majority of PoLice folks, when we did a poll in San Francisco with folks over there trying to build their own alternative solutions, it was something like 92% of calls went for things like homeless people sitting on their front lawn or parking problems. And literally something like 8% went to so-called violent crimes and predatory crimes. So I want to not derail liberation, and I also want to take the question very seriously. The reality is that the question becomes, does calling the PoLice actually help you? My auntie was killed by a domestic violence perpetrator after engaging with the pigs. And so I want to be very real about how the PoLice structure has been considered and named as a solution in a 21st century stolen land reality, where they actually emulate murderers more than protectors. And so in that same way, I also tell women-bodied, trans-bodied people who are trying to protect themselves, be very careful with the PoLice solution as well. As in addition, things like the courts, you know, the kangaroo courts and the KKK courts, getting TROs and protective orders that are not even honored when you call the pigs in to help. So actually what I would say is that sadly, what I would encourage folks to do is to, as myself and Leroy and others at Poor Teach, is to build and collect your village. That to literally keep us safe, AKA that this hashtag that's going around right now, we have to work on the things we've been told not to work on. So let's not get it twisted. In a capitalist system, we are taught that the most important thing is institutional knowledge and corporate jobs and a paycheck. We're not taught to spend time taking care of our elders, to spend time teaching our children. We're not supported in doing it, right? But we're taught to ghettoize our elders and separate ourselves from our youth and children. And that's the absolute opposite of what all indigenous cultures practice even to this day. And so what I again would repeat is, first of all, as a woman-bodied or trans-bodied person who's dealing with this, do whatever you have to do to keep you safe right now. You know, we don't stand on principle, oh, don't ever, you know, if you're gonna die. We're never saying that. We're poor people. We do whatever we have to do to stay alive. We don't stand on fake ass AKKdemia theory. We know what works in the moment to stay alive. But I would also say, do not think that that will be your panacea, and that really actively, if that is your situation, work on building up your village, your community who can hold you. And if possible, consider going back to the people who birthed you if they're safe, and remember who were your original caretakers, teachers, and lovers.
Oh, that's a perfect note to wrap up on, because it's right on time, right at 35. Sandy, did you have any last words that you wanted to?
No, I appreciate that. I was just about to jump in as well. I just want to apologize to those who did not get an opportunity to ask a question, but Tiny and others did a fabulous job. Thank you for challenging us to change our mindset from the colonizing mindset to more community oriented. And that's the bottom line right there. And you said it beautifully. I think I speak for everybody when I say that I was very moved by this presentation, very much challenged. And I want to wish you all well. I want to direct attention to two of the comments in the chat box before we wrap up here in a moment. And one is Jordan Anderson has been posting, and I have it ready to hit again, a link where you can go to give us feedback on not only this session, but the conference in general. Later this evening, for me, it's evening, I guess it's evening there for most of you, there will be a conference, a critical opportunity to look at the conference, and we would love for your feedback at that event as well. And then I also want to point you to redirect your attention to the last comment by Caitlin, which gives you a link where you can donate to Poor Magazine, which I think is a definite worthy cause. My deepest respect, utmost respect, love, and appreciation to each and every one of you for this. This has been incredibly moving, and I can't thank you enough for allowing me to play a part. So thank you very much. At this point, we'll need to unfortunately wrap it up, although I know we could talk much longer.
One line. Intellectual property is the only property us poor people have. If there's anything that you learned from tonight, any words of our glossary that you use, please credit them back to us. We're on every social media digital street. We love you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tiny. Excellent way to close. Thank you all. I really appreciate the opportunity to work with you, Gabby, Jordan, in this session and with the conference. And Caitlin, thank you for your tech skills. And thank you to our ASL interpreters. And just thank you, our deepest appreciation to every one of the presenters. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the conference, everyone.